It's Monday, Parshas Re'ai Chuf Menachem Uv Tov Shin Pai Vuv. The English date is August 3, 2026. My name is Gershy Schwarcz and I'm your host on Edge.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish 24, provided to you by The Click.
Well, the weekend has passed and I have been away from my desk since Friday, like every single week, so it gives you some time to check out onedgenews.com. If you want to be subscribed, you can subscribe right here, or you could also email me on onedgenews@gmail.com, or you could subscribe via the website you can find it in the description below, onedgenews.com/subscribe, and you'll be notified every single time we release an episode. Now, as you know, the Yiddish, we give this news in Yiddish every single day, so it is available exclusively on Yiddish24.com, well, through my website, On Edge News, which takes you there. I urge you to check out my shmis, my specials, like the Tisha B'Av program from 2 weeks ago, if you want to enjoy yourself. And it's in Yiddish, but I'm sure you'll have some chizik and have a kick at it. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. And of course, you could also call me on 845-671-1775 and press 5 to leave me a message. But today I want to recap exactly where we are up to right now with regards to the war with Iran. And as you know, how many times already since the war began that Trump was like, we're going to make a deal. And then the regime is lying, crazy people, can't trust them, and then they're great, we had great talks, and then we're going to hit Iran so hard again, bigger than ever before. And then Pakistan asked us to hold off, and the talks are going great again. And then again, boom, boom, and then talk, and then again, boom, boom, a deal is very close, and boom, boom. And now all the oil and bridges and power plants and things are getting bombed, and then they're getting ready again, they're locked and loaded, and boom, and then Saudi Arabia and Oman asked us to hold off. You think I'm exaggerating? Well, let me give you the actual timeline with the actual dates. You'll see that the boom boom and the talk is not just a caption. Well, it is a caption officially, but I'll give you the official schedule. You'll see for yourself. You'll tell me. But before we do so, let me tell you about Halo 2 high functioning water. If you ever want to hydrate yourself, you can drink water, but none other than Halo 2 high functioning water, well, that's really the best water to hydrate yourself on because it has electrolytes. Purified water through steam distillation, calcium chloride, magnesium chloride, potassium bicarbonate. I will actually send a case of this water randomly to one of my listeners, just in the coming weeks. But you could, in order for you to make yourself known, leave some feedback and mention Halo 2 high functioning water. I told people to leave me the ingredients in one go, not read it off the thingy. Memorize it, say it to me in a shot, like 3 times. Purify the whole thing. And then maybe I'm joking, I'll send a random listener. I like doing that sometimes, or maybe a few. We'll see. Okay, now let's continue. February 28th, the war starts. Okay, you remember Shabbos, America and Israel together hit Iran's military bases and government buildings, right? And the things a country runs on, roads, bridges, and power. Do you remember that? And as well, somebody dies there. On that very first day, Iran's leader himself, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the man who ruled Iran for almost 40 years, was killed in the bombing of his office compound in Tehran, along with all the scientists and everyone who was there. Now, for those of you who don't remember, obviously, Iran's own state media confirmed it and declared 40 days of national mourning until he was buried, and then later a fire broke out outside in his burial site, obviously. I don't know if you know this. Anyway, killed with him his top security chief and other senior leaders as well. And the funeral went on, and they cried, and they were looking for Khamenei. Obviously, people were thinking where he is. Maybe he's hiding behind his brothers there, but whatever, they all look alike. Oh, and actually, there is a new supreme leader. I just mentioned his name, right? His name is Moshe Khamenei, his own son. He's 56 years old, picked about a week after his father was killed, when he was picked, a man who never held any government job in his life. Hold up to that name, because later on in the show I'll tell you something interesting, why the CIA and the Mossad can't find him, and why some people think he might not even be alive. March. Yeah, Chodesh March. Trump gives around 48 hours to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that carries a fifth of the world's oil, right? Or America will, in his exact words, obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. Obliterate meaning wipe out completely. The 48 hours was more than 4 months ago, so the strait is still closed, or open, or closed, not sure. April, Pakistan Prime Minister and its army chief call Trump, please hold off. So he holds off 2 weeks, while J.D. Vance passes messages between Iran and Pakistan. To Iran through Pakistan. Talk. Anyway, June, both sides actually sign a paper. The famous Memorandum of Misunderstanding, like I like to call it, the deal laying out how the talks are going to end the war and how it will work. A ceasefire, Iran asking for lots of money, America asking for no more supporting the terror proxies, Hezbollah, Houthis, Hamas, or etc. And no more missiles, no more nuclear, and the Strait of Hormuz must reopen again. And it becomes without tolls. And then it becomes, okay, fine, just a little bit of nuclear for electricity, but no more. Okay, more money to Iran, fine. Okay, of course you can have the missiles. Why shouldn't you? And of course, we won't talk about your terror proxies, not yet. And this play lasted for a few weeks until early July. Trump declares the ceasefire is officially null and void. July 8th, the fighting is back. Boom, boom. And in July, it got heavy. American jets bombed Iran 8 nights in a row. In one stretch, they hit 6 bridges in one province, and the train junction at Bandar Abbas, Iran's main port, an airport, and a tower that directs ships at the sea. The goal? Cut the port off from the roads to Tehran. Okay, July 22nd. New rule from Trump. Every time Iran shoots a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, America destroys one bridge or power plant, including those located next to or in the capital city of Tehran. One ship, one bridge. That's what he said. Like a menu. In a separate statement, he also threatened Iran's Khag Island, the oil port, right? That basically is like the life support for Iran, and even the plants that make Iran's drinking water, desalination plants. And what has all this cost, obviously? This part is not funny, so I'll give it to you straight. Inside Iran, by Iran's own official count, at least 3,468 people were killed. Well, obviously terrorists and all the IRGC members included. And more than 26,000 injured just through June. And obviously, American and Israeli estimates put the dead even higher. And that's just the war. Before the war even started, late in December, the Iranian people rose up against the regime. For those of you who remember, that's actually what kind of kicked off this war, right? And the regime shot them down in the streets like flies. Iran's government admitted over 3,000 were killed. But here is the number that matters. The IRGC's own intelligence agency, in its own secret report, which was leaked obviously to Iran's Security Council, counted more than 36,500 killed in 2 days alone. The regime's own spies counted the bodies. Over 2,500 in the city of Rasht alone, deaths in over 400 cities. Now, while they shut down the internet so the world couldn't even see, obviously, as you can imagine, and President Trump puts the number far, far higher than that. After Iran hanged 2 more protesters in July, he posted the latest one of 52,000 plus innocent protesters, savages. 52,000! That's the president's own count. He must have been getting it from inside intelligence. And the executions haven't stopped. At least 52 protesters and dissidents executed since the war began. 2 hanged in public just last week, and 2 more men were hung this very morning, actually, accused of spying for Israel, for the Mossad. Now, the bomb everyone talks about, an underground Revolutionary Guard headquarters near Tehran, was hit with a B-2 stealth bomber carrying the biggest non-nuclear bomb America has, 30,000 pounds each. A bomb that drills through up to 200 feet of earth and reinforced concrete. Before it explodes, obviously, with over 5,000 pounds of explosives inside, that's the whole trick, obviously. So it doesn't blow up on the roof, or an impact, it blows up afterwards with a delayed detonation in the basement. And it melts everything in the surrounding. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says that most of Iran's Navy and Air Force and missile defenses are already destroyed, although they say that they still have more that they haven't yet discovered. On the American side, 18 American soldiers were killed and about 600 were wounded. From Iranian missiles that were shot, obviously, and drones on American bases, those who remember, that actually triggered the last few attacks last week in Jordan and across the Gulf. In Israel, 57 people were killed, including from missiles on the cities of Dimona and Arad. That injured about 180 people in one night, and an oil refinery was also hit. Now, the Gulf neighbors. From February until today, Iran has hit them hard, again and again. Kuwait got it the worst. 2 power and water plants and an oil facility were hit. 2 workers were killed, and drones shot down over it just this Shabbos alone. A tanker burning off Dubai, American bases in Jordan, where 3 American soldiers were killed just a few weeks ago, missiles at Bahrain's computer centers, and missiles shot down over Saudi Arabia's oil region. And that's what finally pulled Saudi Arabia into the war as well. 2 weeks ago, the Houthis, Iran-backed terror group that controls most of Yemen, attacked 2 Saudi Arabia oil tankers in the Red Sea. So they closed the Bab al-Mandeb. The Saudi Arabia military bombed Houthi targets inside of Yemen, the first time in this war. The Houthis answered by declaring a naval blockade on Saudi Arabia, firing missiles at Saudi airports, and sending 2 ballistic missiles at Saudi oil refineries in the Red Sea coast. Both were shot down, obviously. Trump says he holds Iran responsible for everything the Houthis do. So, where are we right now? Ships can't use the Strait of Hormuz, or, obviously, the other one, the Bab al-Mandeb, on one side of Arabia. And now the Houthis are threatening the Red Sea. On the other side, obviously, the Bab el-Mandeb. 6 Saudi tankers gave up and are sailing back all the way around Africa. The oil of the world is trapped between 2 closed doors. And that is exactly where this weekend's story begins. Okay, but before we do so, we need to take a diet from all this news. And like I said, if you're already on this route and you want to take the shots, I urge you very, very strongly, actually, to go with Kosher Skinny Shot. Yeah, anyway, doing it. Might as well do it with someone who won't leave you alone on the water. Or the Strait of Hormuz is closed. I'm quoting. Basically, in other words, the shots that you should take, you should probably take with Kosher Skinny Shot because they guide you through every step of the way. Like this, you know the risks, you know what's going on, and they help you. They help you go through it properly. You can call them today on 845-456-8924. Visit them on kosherskinnyshot.com. You can enter to win a free month with Kosher Skinny Shot by calling me on 845-671-1775. Press 5, say your name, your telephone number, and Kosher Skinny Shot on Edge, and you're entered to win a free month with Kosher Skinny Shot. Okay, President Trump stopped a massive military attack on Iran at the very last minute. He says it's because Washington and Tehran are working towards a deal to end the war. Now, and the Gulf leaders asked him to hold off. Obviously, Iran says flat out, there are no talks and no agreement, and nobody asked us to stop the war, obviously. And this morning, Trump exploded at them on Truth Social. In his exact words, he says, Iranian leadership is unbelievably duplicitous. Duplicitous means that they say one thing and do the opposite. Two-facers, in other words. Two-facer. They ask for a meeting. Some would say beg. Talks begin. And then they say openly and proudly that they're not having any discussions. They're only dealing with Oman. That's what they're saying. He ended the post, Iran, in big caps, will never have a nuclear weapon. Iran's semi-official news agency answered him with its own line. Trump, the fool, has run out of steam, and Iranian state media denies Iran ever asked him to call off the attack at all. So, are there talks or no talks? Here's the answer from American officials themselves. U.S. officials say there are no new negotiation sessions planned, obviously. What exists is the same quiet channel that's been running for weeks now. Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner's team on one side, obviously. Iranian representatives on the other. Ghalibaf and Arakchi, with messages passed through the go-betweeners. So both sides are technically telling the truth. Messages are flowing, nobody is sitting at a table. And the guns aren't fully quiet yet either. So, Iran's Revolutionary Guard claims it shot down an American spy drone over the Strait of Hormuz today, using new air defense systems that they have. That's Iran's claim, although its own media, through its own media, although America hasn't confirmed it. They might deny this. Instead of the bombs, America brought back the blockade. It was there already, but they just said the blockade is staying. The Navy is back to sealing off Iran's ports. No ships in, no ships out. Trump's name for it, this morning's post, is the United States Wall of Steel. Here's a new name he has. Now, Central Command says it has already turned away 35 commercial ships, disabled 2 that tried to run through, and sent troops to board 2 more. That was over the course of 2-3 weeks. Ships carrying humanitarian aid are being let through, although, and being inspected before they can continue on routes. Now, and sitting right on the blockade line, the USS Abraham Lincoln, an aircraft carrier with its fighter jets doing the enforcing. Iran's answer, the main shipping lane through the Strait of Hormuz stays completely shut. Iran's foreign ministry spent Sunday on the phone with Saudi Arabia's foreign minister and Pakistan's army chief, and with Oman on the country on the other side of the strait, right? Iran says it's almost finished making a deal for a brand new temporary shipping route through the water. Shipping through the strait is down 77%. And out in the Gulf of Oman today, an oil tanker reported a loud explosion right next to the ship. The British military says the crew is safe and investigators are checking what exactly blew up. Oil prices dropped 4.5% today on the talk of a deal, obviously, down to $83 a barrel. What a joke. I mean, going back and forth. Now to Gaza. We told you on Thursday and Friday about the big agreement, right? Hamas signed up on paper, basically, agreeing to give up its weapons step by step, with Israelis pulling out as the weapons come in. And here is what is new since then. This morning, Israel warned the White House. Israel's intelligence shows that Hamas is not preparing to disarm at all. It is actually rebuilding its army. Israel controls now more than 60% of Gaza. And it says it will not pull out one soldier until Hamas truly gives up all of its weapons. In their words, if we leave early, Hamas rebuilds. And we get another October 7th, Chalila V'chas, and Israel didn't stop shooting over the weekend as well. On Shabbos, an Israeli airstrike killed Salem Abu Labad, a commander in Hamas's Nukba force, one of the terrorists who personally invaded Kibbutz Nir Oz on October 7th. More strikes killed big terrorists from Islamic Jihad and a group called the Army of Islam, and last week a commander of Hamas's battalion in Jabalia. Gaza health officials say that the weekend strikes killed at least 17, and a senior Israeli minister said it plainly: the strikes are not stopping, signed paper or no signed paper. And in Lebanon, a quick update on where things stand. The Lebanese army has started moving into a first test area in the south. As families wait to go back to their villages and homes, Hezbollah came out of the war badly beaten. Israel says over 1,000 of its fighters were killed, and after obviously it joined Iran's war in the spring. And Turkey's President Erdogan says he wants Turkish soldiers in the new international force that will replace the United Nations force there in Lebanon. Iran has put up new billboards in Tehran directly threatening President Trump's family. One sign shows First Lady Melania Trump, Trump's son Barron, and his daughter Ivanka, Jared Kushner's wife, and their eyes closed with the word killed written in red across the top, and next to the pictures, hey, terrorists, get ready to die. Another one in the middle of Tehran shows the Trump family over coffins draped in American flags with the words blood for blood. All 5 of the president's children are named, and obviously then last week it went further. The Revolutionary Guard's own news agency put out a video titled How to Kill Melania Trump. This is not some anonymous account. This is a regime media. The video shows the First Lady's motorcade passing the stores, the she shops in New York. We spoke about this last week. Bergdorf Goodman, Saks Fifth Avenue, with red crosshairs drawn over the locations. Now it calls her shopping trips suitable for operations by global freedom fighters, and even suggests poisoning clothes she might buy with a nerve agent chemical weapon. The video ends with a direct threat to the president's 20-year-old son. This is just the beginning there, right, Baron Trump? Wait for us. The Secret Service is investigating, while the White House has not commented or confirmed this video yet. What the Trump says about this video. First Lady has barely been seen for a month. She's even skipped a major Washington dinner, and Trump knows. The White House correspondent, the last one she skipped, by the way, and Trump knows they're after him. In the middle of July, right after reports that Israel passed Washington intelligence about an Iranian plot to assassinate him, Trump told the New York Post he's been on Iran's list for a long time now. In his words, I've left instructions, if anything happens, to just literally bomb them at levels that they've never seen before. Even worse, they say, than the World War II, he says. He says that they were prepared to attack them, actually even worse than World War II. Now, do you remember Mujtaba Khamenei? This pre-release? Okay, fine. So, the Times of London reports that finding him now is a top priority. The CIA and the Mossad are doing it, that they can't do it. Here is why. I mean, that's what the report says. The man has not touched a phone or a computer in 150 days. Not one call, not even an email, and he was wounded in the same bombing that killed his father, right? He didn't even come out for his own father's funeral, and is believed to be living in a deep underground bunker, afraid to step outside in daylight because of American spy satellites. His messages go out on paper, carried by messengers who don't know who wrote the note or who it's going to. Iran won't even release a recording of his voice because the echo of the room, the hum of the electricity, even the sound of his breathing could tell American computers exactly where he is and how sick he is. And if he uses body doubles, that's probably also another rumor. A former Mossad officer says that even people cooking his meals don't know if they're feeding the real Mujtaba. Statements keep coming out in his name. In July, a post on his account called Trump's signature on the ceasefire paper is worthless, but some in the intelligence world believe the truth is simpler, that Mujtaba is already dead, and the IRGC is just running Iran while pretending he's alive. Why would they do that? I'm not sure. And for anyone with a family or family plans to go to Eretz Yisrael this season, the travel situation is a little bit sticky. The State Department's warning is still in effect after the pause. Americans across the Middle East should consider leaving on commercial flights, they say, or at least be packed and ready to go if the fighting starts again. It warns of flight cancellations and closed airspace with no choice. American Airlines will not fly between JFK and Tel Aviv until at least January 6, 2027. Delta and United have also stopped flying for now. Only El Al and Arkia fly direct between New York and Tel Aviv. At the Ben Gurion airport itself, dozens of American military refueling planes are parked on the runways, taking up so much room that Israel's airport authority warns up to 50,000 tickets could potentially be cancelled this summer. Now, 3 weeks ago, the Knesset passed the freeze law, the law that is stopping arrests of Haredi Bochurim who don't report to the army. But the new law never protected a single Bocher. One day after it passed, the High Court blocked it. Before it even started working, the arrests never stopped. Last Tuesday, 9 judges heard the case, but the government didn't even come to defend its own law. The state's own lawyer argued against it. The court kept its block in place, and the final ruling is coming soon. Every sign is that the law will be thrown out for good. And on Sunday, Netanyahu himself gave up on it. He said that the law failed and it will not come back. And about those who aren't in yeshiva, his words were, they will either enlist or go to prison. After the elections, he says, he'll pass a full Gzeres Hagias law, the new one, while claiming he'll still protect genuine full-time yeshiva bochurim. Well, why the change? The polls, a new poll on Sunday night, has basically his Likud tied with Gadi Eisenkot's new party, the Yashar party, 23 seats each. And Netanyahu is fighting for votes from people who want the bochurim in the army. Now, to Russia and Ukraine. Saturday night in Moscow, a woman walked up to a fancy Italian restaurant carrying what looked like a gift inside the restaurant, a private birthday party, reportedly for the new commander of Russia's Air Force, 2 kilometers from the Kremlin. A security guard stopped her and opened up a package. It exploded. 5 people are dead now, the woman and the guards and the guest included. 21 wounded as well. Investigators believe the bomb was set off by remote control, and that the woman may not have even been known. She may not have known even what she was carrying. The general wasn't even killed. Nobody has taken yet responsibility for this attack. Ukraine has done bombings like this before, but has said nothing about this one. The same night, Ukraine sent a swarm of drones deep into Russia, killing at least 8 people. Russia claims it shot down 635 drones in one night. Now, the drones keep hitting warehouses of Wildberries, Russia's biggest online store. Their version of Amazon was called Wildberries. 16 warehouses were burnt in 2 weeks. Ukraine says the company ships parts for Russia's military drones, and Russia hit back at Ukraine overnight, killing at least 8 people there. Back to Spain. The story we told you last week, and it got even worse. The final count, 72 people are dead trying to cross from Morocco into Ceuta, the Spanish city on the African coast. Most drowned while swimming around the border fences. Others were basically crushed in the rocks. Between 50 and 60,000 people forced their way in over 2 days, Thursday and Friday. Spain, the Spanish government claimed that over 48,000 went back to Morocco within 2 days. Many walked back on their own because there was no food and nowhere to sleep. That still leaves thousands unaccounted for in a small city. Spain's answer, a floating wall. A barrier that basically 500 meters long laid across the water on Shabbos at the exact spot where the swimmers came through. France closed its border crossing with Spain as well. Italy did the exact same. In Pakistan, an Islamic terrorist blew himself up on Sunday at a rally into Swat Valley, killing at least 14 people, 9 civilians and 5 policemen. The bitter part, the crowd was actually demonstrating for peace, demanding the government crush the terror groups coming back into their valley. FBI announced the results of Operation Blackout, a 16-month worldwide hunt that took down 4 of the biggest online scam operations on Earth. These are compounds in Asia and the Middle East, where kidnapped people, thousands of them, are locked inside and forced, obviously, to run phone and internet scams on Americans all day long. The FBI seized $15 billion, most of it in one blow, 127,000 Bitcoin digital money, the largest seizure in American history. Thousands of trafficked workers freed. And obviously, the FBI says about 10,000 Americans were saved from losing their life savings. Mayor Mamdani of New York had an embarrassing Friday. He came to the funeral of Sergeant Angel Rampersad, the young soldier from Queens killed in the Iranian missile attack on Jordan. He came with a speech ready on his tablet and sat down in the 4th row. The governor spoke, Mrs. Hochul, and the borough president spoke, and a state senator spoke. Mamdani's name was never called. The family supports President Trump, and obviously, and didn't even want him near the microphone. Now, witnesses say he sat there checking his speech. So, whatever. And then they put the tablet away. His office released the speech afterwards, in the one he absolutely never gave. Okay, 3 people are dead and 7 are injured after a shooting in an In-Out Burger in Twin Falls in Idaho. 24-year-old walked up to the drive-thru with an armed rifle. He opened fire on the cars in a line in the restaurant window. Within seconds, he also shot at a parked Tesla there. Within seconds, 2 ordinary citizens who were carrying their own guns with them shot back at him. Police confirmed that the shooter is dead. One of the dead was a restaurant worker. Among the wounded, a taxi driver who was standing there charging his car. The FBI opened a website collecting videos from everyone who saw it to be able to track down who else was involved. Closer to home, Rockland County, 2 emergency agencies are investigating one of their own volunteers, Joe Morrison, who posted a video of a Hatzalah vehicle parked in a handicapped spot at the Costco in Nanuet with its lights flashing, claiming Hatzalah members used their lights for personal errands. Now, the truth is, at the exact moment, the Hatzalah paramedic was inside the store saving a child who had collapsed. Both the Spring Valley Fire Department and the ambulance company have opened official investigations into the man who posted it. Closer to home, for many of our listeners in Montreal, the Noam Kosher restaurant on the Kerry burned to the ground on early Shabbos morning around 3:15 a.m. The business next door burned with it. Nobody was hurt. The police arson squad is investigating, and a camera at the garage next door caught the young man setting the fire. Canada's public safety minister called it what looks like an arson attack or a hate crime attack on a gathering place of Montreal's Jewish community. This comes 1 week after a bagel shop in Toronto had its windows shot at. It's not far from the place where you remember that bitter shooting that killed Nebuch, a Yid who was just a bystander. Rabbi Mizrahi, the Jew that was killed. Okay, and remember Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of television host Savannah Guthrie, taken from her home in Tucson, Arizona, the end of January. Now, 6 months later, and she's never been found. On this weekend, the sheriff and the FBI released 2 ransom notes the kidnappers sent to a local TV station, obviously. The first note demanded $4 million and Bitcoin and said she was safe but scared. The second note, 4 days later, said that she perished shortly after she was taken, and that her heart gave out, and that she is buried in nature. Police released the notes hoping somebody recognizes the way the writer writes. No arrests, and the rewards now total over $1 million. The sheriff says the case is far from closed. Washington State declared a statewide emergency over the weekend. Wildfires near Spokane destroyed more than 600 buildings. 60,000 people were forced to evacuate their homes. The main fire is 3 fires burning altogether. As of Sunday night, firefighters have zero control over it. 5,000 homes are empty and thousands more have no electricity. Schools are open as free shelters, basically. Next door, Oregon has 32 large fires, the most in the country. Right now, 99 large fires are burning across America. Smoke is covering the entire western half of the country. Europe is facing its worst fire summer in modern history. More than 300,000 people, were evacuated across Spain and France. Spain had its biggest fire ever in the hills of Avila, west of Madrid. It burned 50,000 hectares, I think. About 200 square miles, basically, or 63,000 people were forced out around Madrid and Toledo. Many people are now trying to return home. Obviously, Spain ended its national emergency, but fires started again this weekend. France fought its biggest fire since 1949 near Bordeaux. 220,000 people were evacuated. Most of those people are now back home. 240 homes were completely destroyed. Greece is now the worst area. Winds over 70 kilometers an hour pushed a wall of fire towards coastal towns near Athens. Firefighters had to retreat. On Sunday, 2 firefighting helicopters crashed into each other over the Athens fire. Both pilots were killed. England also has a fast-moving fire in Suffolk. It is the size of 140 soccer fields. Hundreds of people were evacuated from their homes and a vacation park. There was also a fire in Eretz Yisrael on Sunday, near Moshav Xalon, outside Beit Shemesh, during the heat wave. The first row of homes were evacuated, 30 fire crews and 6 planes fought it, and Baruch Hashem, it is under control and nobody was hurt. And here in New York, they say the weather is actually, heavy rain is expected tonight with possible street flooding in the city, so drive carefully tonight. Okay, let's talk about Shawarma Delight. If you stop by exit 14, you want to savor yourself a nice lamb shawarma, I advise you to stop by Shawarma Delight. Exit 14, right next to Bingo. Shawarma Delight. And you can stop by also for a free drink if you mention on Edge. Kids get free ISIS. As well, every Thursday night there's Minyan and Chemarav there, so you can stop by, Cholent, Yapchik and all the rest. YS Capital Group, if you want to borrow money for your investments for building, YS Capital Group is your place to go. No closing costs, 718-831-2168. And as well, Arrive Express, 845-622-1111. 845-254-1111. That is Arrive Express. And Protobyte, you all know Protobyte already by now. They do design software, right? The AI race and everything you try to do on your own, you have the experts. Protobyte, 354-123-7. Visit their website on proto-byte.com. Okay, my friends, have yourselves a wonderful day.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish 24, provided to you by The Click.